Good evening, this is our BCN News Bulletin for tonight. Premier Tokitalangi uses the Pacific consultation for the World Humanitarian Summit to question development partners' trust. Government invests in new equipment at the Waianonu farm to uplift standards and prepare for new developments. Local hunters provide insight into the location and population of wild pigs, and project identifies using hunting dogs as a potential solution to the problem. Government has a new fleet of 8 vehicles that have arrived. The Auckland City Council has gifted 4 ride-on mowers as a token of appreciation for the level of care for Angelie. Premier Tokitalangi has made bold statements at the World Humanitarian Summit consultations in Auckland, New Zealand, as Pacific Island nations plead with donors to let them manage relief funds themselves when a natural disaster strikes. Australia and New Zealand are jointly hosting the event, attended by 140 delegates, including senior charity and relief fund heads, UN officials and Pacific country leaders. Pacific talks have focused on the problems caused by extreme weather, namely cyclones, floods, earthquakes and tsunamis. Premier Tokitalangi posed a question whether donors trusted Pacific leaders, stating that there is very little trust between islands and donors, particularly when a disaster occurs. He also raised the issue that aid often takes 2 to 4 weeks to arrive, which doesn't help island countries, and that countries' own disaster plans are ignored by donors despite it being drawn up with their money. Tuvalu's Prime Minister, Enele Sopuang, has called for the urgent action to improve disaster preparedness. He said that more must be done to ensure small low-lying islands are able to better respond to disasters. The World Humanitarian Summit will be the United Nations' first global summit on humanitarian action that will bring the global community together to commit to new ways of working together to save lives and reduce hardship around the world. The humanitarian challenges from international conflicts, disasters and climate change are among the key issues on the agenda. The World Humanitarian Summit will be held in Istanbul on the 26th to the 27th of May 2016. Government has invested in some new equipment at the Waianonu farm to bring it back up to standard. The Waianonu farm was established in 2004 as a joint venture between the Niue government and New Zealand-based company Reef Group. About 260 acres of land was primarily planted as a nonu orchard, and a processing factory was also set up. According to one of the farm managers, work continues on the farm and there is still a demand for nonu juice, but some of the equipment is a bit old and due for renewal. Yesterday, a new tractor was presented to farm workers and government representatives with some training on how to operate and maintain the tractor that has also been fitted with a mower.
We did just some training on driving the tractor, learning how to operate it safely, making sure that all the safety mechanisms like drive shafts, everything's on properly, starting of the tractor, brakes, park brake, maintenance, how to check the oils and bits and pieces, and I'm just about to go over with the local mechanic on servicing schedules, so it gets serviced 50 hours for a start and then they get serviced every 250 hours afterwards. That's the tractor. And then the mower is very simple, it's only got 4 grease points, so they will grease that once a week and just check the tensions of the belt. So realistically it's a very simple unit. There's 260 acres in here. This grass at this length here, they'll mow that fine probably in about 2.5 hours. But when you get in between the trees in here like that, it's very tricky. The mower, one feature the mower has got, it can offset itself 250mm to the left and to the right. So if you're going up that side of the tree line, you can actually offset it 250mm to the right. You can get in very close to the main trunks of the trees without actually having to get underneath them, because the trees are very low.
Over the years there have been some setbacks and challenges, but the outlook now is for those working at the farm to help uplift the standards in preparation for some new developments in the near future. The The first tractor will serve as a trial model to see whether there is more interest to bring in similar units or models to the island.
For this unit here, the tractor is $20,000. We have, I don't know if your GST applies over here or not, but it's in New Zealand it's 20,000 plus GST, and the mower is 5,100 plus GST. But we do start at 25 horsepower, and then we go up right up to 100 horsepower. So we have a lot of different models. So we go 25, 27, that's 29, then we go 35, and they come with a lot of different attachments as well. So that one can come with a front end loader. You can put a backhoe arm on the back, which is a digger arm, and just go from there. You can get underbelly mowers for the underneath, so you can get the wee smaller one with an underbelly mower. Is very good for people that have got a bit of grass around their house to mow and stuff like that. Make sure that everything was right. Make sure that it's installed properly. The guys understand how to use the equipment properly. Make sure that it's going to get maintained. So I'm quite confident that when I leave here, it will get maintained properly. But if there's ever a problem, they can email me, you know, and then I can sort it out from there. And also, with the other thing is, hopefully, talking to your infrastructure people and some other guys, that we can get some more units up here.
This new piece of equipment is now in operation, and the hope is that once the farm has been returned to its original standard, it will open up more opportunities. Local hunters have helped provide some insight and solutions to locate wild pigs on the island in a one-day consultation that was held this week. The project to deal with the feral pigs problem on the island has been ongoing, and it seems after discussions with some of the locals that has helped identify and clarify a few issues. Glenn Osborne has spent a fair amount of time now with the local project team, imparting some of his experiences. This trip, however, has been about scoping out the situation and finding out more about wild pigs.
There were lots of discussions about how many pigs are here on the island. Somebody said 10,000, somebody said 3,000, 1,000. I don't believe that there's that many there. You have to understand that just a small mob of pigs, 5, 6 or 7 pigs can do a lot of damage in a big area. So I believe that there's probably a couple of hundred feral pigs here that are really making the damage, and getting those numbers down, we'll be able to do that. How we're going to do that is probably, there's 2 ways. We can either come back and train the local boys here and their dogs, and I discussed it with them about training them as younger pups so that they have the discipline for when they go out, so they don't chase cars and they don't chase chickens. But it's a time and process which takes about a year, maybe a bit longer to get the dogs trained up properly. I found out basically where they live, kind of how they work in the bush system around here, the areas in which they sort of keep all the, sort of live in that whole basic area. Other things that I've learnt is about the dogs that they use here. Some of the local boys that have been hunting hard, they do a lot of hunting. Sometimes they're not always catching, and it's basically comes down to a bit of training with the dogs. But some of their dogs do all right, and I do believe that the local dogs they have here are actually good enough to be contract dogs. It's just about training them as pups.
Project coordinator Hagetonga Tule says that the use of hunting dogs has been a successful hunting method that appears so much easier and convenient. He says so far the team have caught 9 pigs in the past week using 1 hunting dog. We also spoke to Glenn on what it takes to train a hunting dog.
We wanted to know how many times pig hunters go out, how many times they actually catch pigs, the ratio of chasing them and catching them, what kind of style they use and what kind of dogs they use. So I get a bit of idea of how many pigs are in the area, how many pigs that they catch per year, so we can calculate how many pigs are in the area and whether it's going to explode more pigs and more pigs and more pigs. What I found the other day is, well, I've caught a couple of sows, and the sows have only 1 to 2 piglets on them, which tells me that the actual feral pigs are not producing lots of piglets, because I don't believe there's enough actual food here. And they have a natural ability to tell whether they can sustain 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 piglets, or they can just have 1 or 2 because the food source is not enough. The amount of dogs that you take out, it's the quality of the dog that you take out. Don't take 6 dogs if they're only half good. You might also work and concentrate on 2 dogs and get them going really good, then have 6 dogs that you haven't put the time into.
The challenge now is to encourage people to train their dogs from when they're puppies on how to hunt wild pigs, and also limit their association with other dogs that they could pick up bad habits. Glenn will be leaving the island tomorrow. Government has a new fleet of vehicles worth $200,000 that have finally arrived after more than a year of waiting. 8 vehicles were brought on the most recent vote last week and have been allocated to the 3 cabinet ministers, 3 members assisting the ministers, the Speaker of the House of Assembly and the Secretary to Government. According to the Acting Secretary to Government, an arrangement was made for the previous vehicles that were tendered internally since the last elections. A guideline on the tender process for vehicles is under review until next week, and a cabinet paper is yet to be tabled to identify whether these vehicles will be tendered off in the future or how long government will use these vehicles before sourcing new vehicles. The Auckland City Council has gifted 4 ride-on mowers to the government in recognition and acknowledgement of support received from Niue while elephant Angeli was quarantined on island for 3 months. The mowers were brought in on the flight that took Angeli more than a week ago. Government has decided to distribute 3 of the ride-on mowers to assist with community beautification programs. This week, members of Parliament for Liku, Hikutavake and Tamkotonga all received the mowers on behalf of the community with great appreciation. And that is the conclusion of our news bulletin for this evening. We do hope you have an enjoyable weekend ahead, and don't forget to go to Niue High School for their annual sports day that will be on tomorrow.